Chapter 7. Naruto and Mito stood opposite each other on top of the Hokage monument, on top of Hashirama's head ironically. A few months ago, and it awoke my old life in me. Since then I have been both Uzumaki Naruto and Senju Hashirama. Mito looked at him with a disbelieving yet desperately hopeful face. She had hoped for it the moment she had laid eyes on him. His chakra and emotions felt too much like Hashirama''s. No one could replicate that much of a person unless it was the person himself. She needed proof, though. To erase all her doubts and assure her that it was indeed her beloved husband reborn, standing in front of her. I can see that you have my husband's chakra and bloodline, and you feel very familiar. Give me proof, please give me proof. Naruto looked at her, the joy shining bright on his face. I activated your seal on the Hokage's office, Mito-chan. Not enough. Tell me something only I and Hashirama would know. Mito asked, feeling as if this were a dream. Naruto turned his back to her and observed the space above the monument. It was right here, wasn't it, Mito-chan? You told me we would have a son, we were alone and we had come here for our walk. The sun was rising, and I was so happy at the news. It makes me happy even today in this life to remember it. Tears were flowing down Mito's eyes. Hashirama-kun? Makoton, Kami no Niwa, said Naruto, creating the garden the exact same way he did all those years ago. The barren land above the Hokage monument was transformed. A lush green lawn spread over it and cherry trees sprouted everywhere, showering the reunited couple with their beautiful blossoms. Naruto had forgotten about Konoha's plight. It could wait. Then I went maniacal and started jumping around, creating a garden like this one everywhere. Until you caught me with an immobilization seal and forced me to calm down. I didn't for around 3 hours, though, laughed Naruto nostalgically. Hashirama, said Mito yet again, rooted to her spot with utter joy. It was true. No one knew all those things except Hashirama. He really was reborn and in front of her. Tobirama was different though, he went outside the village for a good distance. And went even more ballistic than me. You should have seen him. Mito-chan. Mito was slowly walking towards him, hardly believing their good fortune. A second chance, it was a second chance for them. She could be with her beloved husband for an entire lifetime now. I can keep telling you of things only I would know. Tsunade's first word, calling me Ojisan, how I met my friend Madara for the first time on a river bank, my other dead brothers, Itama and Kawarama. And I can show you something unique to me. He turned and faced Mito, who had a constant stream of tears flowing down her face. Mito felt her heart quicken at the sight of him. He sported the markings of a sage. The same crimson ones Hashirama had possessed. The 2 concentric circles on the center of his forehead, the rings around his eyes and the 2 arcs down his cheeks. He was beautiful. She could sense the chakra flowing through his veins like a storm. It was a glorious feeling, to immerse her mind once more in his all-consuming chakra. It really is me, Mito-hime. She covered the distance between them at a run and flung herself into his arms, where she belonged. I missed you so much, Hashirama. Those years without you. She cried into his shoulder. We are together once more, Mito-chan. No one will ever separate us again. I don't like to see you in tears, Mito-chan, said Naruto, stroking her back soothingly. She wiped her tears, still maintaining her embrace, and examined her husband properly in his reborn body. He was tall for his age, slightly taller than her with long and spiky blonde hair. He looked very handsome, as much as he did as Hashirama. But he exuded the same calm and power she always placed her faith in, Konoha had placed its faith in. He released his senjutsu, the markings fading. And hugged her again tightly, unable to believe their luck, their hearts overflowing with their love. It was God himself in his infinite mercy, granting them such happiness. Arigato. Kakashi Taijo. We have bad news, a messenger from the perimeter teams. It seems Iwa is attacking us with Atsuchikage leading them. 2,000 Iwa shinobi will be here with the fence sitter in a matter of minutes. Kakashi's eyes widened and he cursed. Of all the times. Tenzo, send half the team in Jounan to back up the perimeter division. Iwa chose a bad time. Most of our shinobi are out on missions. Now, Tenzo. The Anbu nodded and shot off. Kakashi glanced around the village and sighed. The job was done well and the village was in a state of complete lockdown. The academy students were safe. At least defending the village would be easier without villagers running around like headless chicken. Something upon the Hokage monument caught his attention. Trees were growing and a lawn was spreading beautifully. Naruto. What was Naruto doing, creating trees on top of monuments when the village was about to be attacked? He decided to go and find out for himself. Naruto and Mito were currently entwined around one another, pouring their love and desperation from years of separation into a single heated kiss. It was excellent. Mito had said she was physically around 17, and he himself was nearing 14. It was just fine. He adored Rakamaru's idiocy. The Snake Saiyan's greed for Mito to be at her strongest was his undoing. Naruto felt like he was in heaven. His wife's lips felt as soft as ever and her form was as soft as velvet and hard as steel at the same time. She was his light. His light and reason. A throat cleared behind them, causing them to separate hastily and turn. Kakashi-sensei, said Naruto, blushing and irritated at the same time. Mito was watching amusedly. She could never get over him blushing. She had always teased him, called him the shy god of shinobi. Kakashi looked at Naruto, amazed, and hardly believing what he was doing. He was kissing Uzumaki Mito? That was his wife, but still. Naruto cleared his throat as well. Kakashi, meet my wife Uzumaki Mito, first Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, the greatest sealing mistress the nations have ever seen. He introduced his wife proudly, taking her hand. Mito blushed faintly at his praise. Hashirama, stop doing that to him, he seems ready to faint. Naruto gave her a deadpan stare. He does that. Kakashi stared at the two legendary figures reunited. He felt so happy for Naruto. But that had to wait. They would need Naruto if they were to prevail in the coming battle. Naruto, Iwa is about to attack us in a matter of minutes. We have no idea how they concealed themselves. Naruto exchanged glances with Mito. It is Onoki's Mskikure no Jutsu, he can hide large numbers of people from view. Only Sensor Ninja or Uchiha can see through that, said Mito. Naruto looked at Mito. What do we do about Hiruzen, Mito-chan? He was always too self-sacrificing for his own good. He may do something drastic. Mito looked back at him. Hashirama, let Hiruzen correct his own mistakes. He can take care of a weakened Tobirama and that snake-like youngster easily. Naruto still looked worried about his student, but Kakashi settled the matter. Mito-sama, Naruto, we have no choice but to leave Hokage-sama to deal with Orochimaru. We need you both to defeat Iwa, as our shinobi presence in the village is at a low. Naruto looked torn, but nodded. Mito considered Kakashi. Where are they attacking? From the north and slightly from the east. They will be here soon. Naruto, please do not reveal too much of your strength, show enough to be considered borderline S-class. We will be too busy recovering from this to deal with other alarmed nations. Naruto nodded solemnly, put his arms around Mito's shoulders and looked deep into her eyes. Let us fight together once more, Mito-chan. Mito nodded in joy. Hashirama by himself was near invincible, but together they were truly invincible. Jiraiya and Kushina were standing together, waiting for the inevitable assault. They had delayed Iwa's arrival by setting certain wide-range traps, and gained about another half hour. They were seal masters, and they used every bit of their mastery to delay Onoki. We are as ready as possible. Kushina, you have to protect our shinobi from the lava-style attacks of the earth shinobi. It is said that Onoki's granddaughter possesses the powerful lava-style bloodline. Kushina nodded. I was never as good against Iwa as against Kumo. They can disperse my Suidan and Kin with their Dodan easily. They have some very strong Dodan users. Anyway. Will you confront that Tsuchikage alone? Jiraiya opened his mouth, presumably to say yes when a voice interrupted him. No, he won't confront him at all. Kushina and Jiraiya turned, staring with wide eyes. Standing behind them was Naruto, Kakashi and a very beautiful young woman, who had red hair and held her son's hand. Kakashi disappeared with a shunshin, though, explaining that he needed to check on the shinobi. Naruto! Yelled Kushina, and pulled him into a crushing hug. Naruto's eyes were popping out. Kasan. Stop. Suffering. Dora. Kushina released him immediately, looking sheepish. What happened to the Sandaime, Naruto? He is fighting Orochimaru and Tobirama. I hope he is alright, his life force feels fine if a little dimmer. Naruto looked coldly at Jiraiya. And stop peeking at my wife, Orochimaru. Jiraiya's eyes went back to normal, looking anywhere but at Naruto. He knew who Naruto was, and he knew who his wife should be. How is she here though? Your wife? Asked Kushina, looking like she was punch drunk. Mito stepped towards her and said tenderly. It has been a long time, Kushina-chan. You have grown into a beautiful and strong kunoichi. You make me proud. Kushina was awed. Mito-sama, you really are back. Mito looked pleased and happy. I am here to stay, Kushina-chan. My place is by my husband's side, she said, melting into his embrace. She could hardly stop touching him, to make sure this was all real. Naruto looked at Kushina, who looked like she was about to explode with questions. Jiraiya was busily writing down something in a notebook. Meet my wife and your daughter-in-law Uzumaki Mito, Kasan. Naruto said seriously. Kushina looked extremely weirded out. She had no idea how to feel about this. Mito bopped him on his head. Stop confusing everybody, Hashirama. Kushina-chan has already been in a battle. Anyway, how much longer do we have? Kushina shut away disordered feelings of her son who was married before she was born and answered. Jiraiya Sensei's scouts say Onoki is leading her shinobi at a fast pace and will be here in another half hour. We set traps for him with a wide-range swamp seal, and a fire tornado seal. Lots of them. It won't stop the Tsuchikage for long though. His dust release is too strong. Naruto put a hand on Kushina's shoulder. Don't worry about Onoki, Kasan. I had such high hopes for him. But it seems you got to him after all. I guess I need to teach him again the same lesson Madara taught him. Onoki fought Madara? Jiraiya asked with amazement. Naruto nodded. Not fought, exactly. No. More like got humiliated. His strength doesn't even register when compared to Madara or me. Hashirama, you're not at your old strength yet. Perhaps half of it. I sense that you are growing steadily, but it will be some time till you are as strong as before. I estimate 3 years, said Mito with concern. I am strong enough, besides I have you, he said. Mito laid her head on his shoulder, causing him to encircle her in his embrace yet again. Jiraiya went back to his note-taking and Kushina watched her legendary son and his wife with mixed feelings. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the ground. They saw a shinobi floating high above the ground and one ninja poured out in their hundreds in 4 groups. 3 were close, and 1 was quite a distance to the left. Kasan, Orochimaru and Kakashi Sensei, you go and deal with 3 groups with all our shinobi. Leave Onoki and that 4th division to us. I will teach that brat not to turn on Konoha, said Naruto, wisdom and authority in his eyes. They nodded rapidly. It was better than they had hoped for. Disappearing, they led the charge of the gathered Konoha shinobi and met Iwa with a thunderous crash. He could go and wipe out the lot of them with Makoton, but he did not really want to slaughter them to the last man unless they left him no other choice. Madara had always called him soft-hearted, but that was just how he was. No, only Onoki remembered the absolute power he had wielded with the wood release. These Iwa shinobi needed something they feared more than just fairy tales to confront them, if they were to be made to flee from conflict. Naruto gathered his chakra, a shining silver aura manifesting around him. Mito too gathered her strength, a rippling gray chakra forming around her. The legendary couple looked at each other and disappeared towards battle. Onoki watched the ensuing battle from high in the air. This was his chance to take out Konoha. As expected, the Sannin Jiraiya, the wife of the cursed Namikaze, and that Sharingan-wielding nightmare were cutting through his forces like hot knife through butter. He smiled grimly. Konoha's newest generation of shinobi were not battle-tested. They made elementary mistakes and paid for it with death. His own shinobi were decimating the Konoha forces in return. Two S-class ninja and one borderline S-class, however strong, could not stand up to 2,000 highly trained war veterans. Let alone those newbies Konoha had sent out for a defense. The three divisions were engaging Konoha's forces successfully, and the fourth division was expected to encircle around them, and they would crush Konoha. He saw the fourth division beginning to move to surround the Konoha shinobi, but they suddenly stopped. Why did they stop? He floated downwards quite a bit, and saw something that surprised him to no end. A blond boy, tall for his age, and a beautiful young woman in white face his legion of shinobi as if they did not have a care in the world. Either these youth were very strong, or were just buying time. He decided to intervene only if things got bad for the fourth division. They still had time to execute the final maneuver. Mito stood alongside her husband as they stared at the 500 shinobi in front of him. Kakashi asked you not to show your true strength. Only about S-class. How will you handle this? Naruto drew his wakizashi and held it to his side at an angle, reinforcing the blade with pure earth chakra and increasing its tensile strength tenfold. They fear a yellow flash. So they will fear me. He had mastered the use of Shunshin when he was but a boy. Dedicated long months only to it. It was short range and worked only by sight, but it would do for this battle. Mito-chan, defend me against long-range attacks. I would do it myself. But you know I must restrict my show of strength. Mito nodded. Go, Hashirama. Naruto nodded and disappeared with a yellow flash, and appeared in front of the Iwa ranks. Then he began to slaughter them before they could even blink. Onoki could hardly believe his eyes. Ranks upon ranks of his shinobi were falling like flies, not even able to react. He strained his eyes, and saw something that chilled him to the bone. A flash of yellow moving across the stunned ranks, almost too fast to even spot. He was killing them with impunity. This had to stop. He was not as fast as the Namikaze butcher, but he was fast enough. Pure white energy began gathering itself between his palms, shaping itself into a three-dimensional petal. This threat would be eliminated soon. Kushina, Jiraiya and Kakashi were upon a small hill, watching the battle unfold. They had put up a barrier seal to recuperate and consider their next move. Their teams were fighting well enough, but it was obvious they would have to retreat back to Konoha soon enough. These Iwa shinobi seemed hand-picked. They were probably the top tier of Iwa shinobi. All of them were probably A rank or high B rank. Some were Iwa and Bu. That made it hard for them to kill their enemies. Kushina had fought many battles. But she had not faced an army of high-level shinobi. Iwa had staked much on its assault. Kushina suddenly heard something that froze her heart and made Kakashi and Jiraiya turn towards the voice in disbelief. It is the yellow flash of Konoha. Run! They saw the division Naruto and Mito-sama had gone to confront running back to the main force helter-skelter. Behind the rapidly retreating battalion, she saw something amazing. Barely discernible flashes of yellow, rapidly taking out the retreating shinobi of Iwa. Minato! Said Jiraiya in wonder. Kushina looked heartbroken as her son flashed around rapidly, taking out his father's enemies. He was so fast. Reminding her painfully of Minato. Minato, if only you could see our son. Naruto is using their own fear against them. Said Kakashi with admiration. But he too was rattled at how much Naruto reminded him of his sensei as he used the Shunshin. Jiraiya pointed to a glowing white light above Naruto's general area. It's Onoki, he is using dust release against Naruto. He must be really scared by the reappearance of the yellow flash to go that far so fast. Kushina looked very worried. My baby. Mito saw her husband stop and resheath his blade as he watched the remnants of the battalion run back to the main force. He had surprised her with his situational awareness, a legacy of this lifetime, she thought. She followed the line of her husband's sight and saw Onoki preparing to launch Dust Release. No you don't, Onoki. Onoki thrust his hands toward Naruto. Jinten, Genkai Hikari no Jutsu. A huge column of white light descended from Onoki's position in the skies towards Naruto, ripping through the air at an unbelievable speed. Mito appeared next to her husband and slammed her palms together. Fuuin Jutsu, Rushi Firu Tashiru. Naruto watched as his wife countered Onoki's attack with a particle filter seal. Her own innovation. Her proficiency with seals really astounded him. Onoki's white light just dissipated into shining embers falling harmlessly onto the floor. Naruto looked at Mito and nodded with admiration for her as Onoki looked at them with indecision, and floated back to his own army. Disengage. Kushina watched as Onoki's attack was dispersed by Mito-sama, and that Tsuchikage floated back to his own army ordering them to disengage. The Konoha shinobi too disengaged, and within a short while the battle lines were formed once more, Konoha facing Iwa. They were outnumbered 2-1, and they could hold out from inside the village. Of all the times for Konoha to have so many of its shinobi out on missions. She watched with relief as Naruto and Mito appeared next to Kakashi and Jiraiya. She went up to meet them. Onoki is forming up to attack again, we must retreat to Konoha. Our forces are wounded and weakened and the reserves inside the city will help us outlast a siege. It is for the best, Kushina-san. Iwa has lost about 500 of its own, and still has about 1,000 fresh shinobi. We on the other hand are down to 300, all of us weary. Jiraiya and Naruto acquiesced as well, albeit reluctantly. It would not take long for Onoki to reform his forces and attack with unfamiliar tactics. They passed the order. Onoki watched with satisfaction as the Konoha shinobi ran back to their village, but he could not let them escape to their village. He did not come here to lay a siege. My fellow shinobi, watch as Konoha retreats. Do not fear the imitation yellow flash, as he is fleeing too. They must be at their limit. Do not let them escape to their hidey hole. His shinobi cheered, having reorganized. As one, they gave chase. Their forces were nearly through the gates and Kushina sighed with relief. Iwa was now within sight of them, roaring with anger and triumph the lot of them. Naruto suddenly stumbled, falling upon his knees. Mito cried out and stopped too, appearing by his side. Kushina joined them as well, seeing her son stumble. Jiraiya and Kakashi were watching worriedly from the battlements as the three stopped. The last of the perimeter guard was almost through. What's wrong, Hashirama? Iwa is almost upon us. Unless you want to reveal our strength, we should go, said Mito urgently. Naruto stood up, and looked at Mito and then at Kushina with an expression of piercing sadness, tears flowing down his face. The Iwa army was fully in view at the horizon. The trees in this area were sparse and it was almost full plateau. Suited for Iwa. What happened, Naruto? We have no time, asked Kushina urgently. Hiruzen is dead. Orochimaru is fleeing the village. His chakra feels damaged and diminished. But I could feel Hiruzen's life force snuffed out like a candle. He is gone. Kushina and Mito gasped. Naruto was losing his expression of utter sadness, and it was being rapidly replaced with anger. As Hashirama he had lost a beloved student, but as Naruto he had lost the one man who had consoled him throughout his childhood. The one man who was always there for him. No matter what. And they had taken him away. They had taken the one man who was dear to him in both lives, away. If it were not for Iwa's invasion, then he could have easily helped Hiruzen defeat Orochimaru. He faced the approaching invaders, and spoke to Mito. I could have protected him, if only these pests had not dared to attack Konoha. I will slaughter them, he said with absolute rage. Mito looked alarmed. When Hashirama was angered, there was no stopping him. No one could stop him. Even Madara feared his anger. Mito-chan, take Kasen a safe distance away from me. I don't care about secrecy anymore. Those who attack Konoha without any provocation will be erased. Kushina was too shocked as Mito nodded and kissed her son on his cheek, whispering for him to take care. She was grasped by the hand, and appeared next to Jiraiya and Kakashi in a series of shunshin, Mito dragging her. What is happening, Kushina-san, Mito-sama? Why is Naruto out there alone? Asked Kakashi, concern upon his face. The reserve Konoha shinobi were lining the walls, readying themselves for the siege. Jiraiya, Kushina and Kakashi however were alternating their glances between Mito and Naruto. Hiruzen is dead. Killed by Orochimaru, the two males of the group gasped in grief. He is angered beyond measure. He blames Iwa for interfering. You three know just how much Hiruzen meant to Naruto in this life. How can he defeat so many shinobi? There are about 1,000 of them out there, not to mention Onoki. Said Jiraiya, his worry showing. Mito made a hand seal, creating a powerful barrier of silence around them. Watch. You have no idea of his true strength. He will show the world again why he was called God of Shinobi. Iwa will pay. He shouldn't reveal Makoton. Said Kakashi. Would you rather be killed by Iwa than have my husband reveal his strength? Asked Mito. Kakashi had nothing to say to that. So he shut up. They watched as the Iwanin rushed towards Naruto, intent on just obliterating him. Naruto walked forward calmly, his previous rage dissolving into deadly focus. The faint silver sheen around his body exploded into a very bright rippling glow, tinged faintly with red. He is using a little of Kyuubi's chakra. Said Mito. As if he were not strong enough already. The ground around Naruto started cracking and the pebbles on the ground were being crushed. The entire region felt his presence and anger. The Iwa shinobi rushing towards him just stumbled and went on their knees in their hundreds, unable to bear the power of the Shodai Hokage being unleashed. Kushina watched open-mouthed as her son subdued his enemies by presence and chakra alone. She felt the enormity of it as if it were the crack of doom. The Konoha shinobi were also shivering in awe, staring at the boy they had believed to be a nuisance. What power! How powerful is he? Asked Jiraiya, barely hiding his amazement. Kakashi looked stunned as he watched his student walk even closer to the Iwa army. They were still unable to move from the pressure. A beam of pure white light shot at him from the skies again. Onoki was taking action but to no avail. A massive hand of wood shot from the earth and swatted the jutsu away as if it were a bothersome fly. The Konoha shinobi seemed ready to faint. Some of the Iwa shinobi did faint. Makoton, whispers ran everywhere. Both among the defenders and attackers. The battlefield was now rumbling, Naruto's chakra escalating still. The Iwa shinobi had thrown off Naruto's oppression and were preparing their own jutsus. Naruto formed the serpent seal in preparation for his own. With a massive roar, 200 Iwa shinobi in the front lines yelled at the name of their jutsu, joined by Onoki who sent another dust release technique at Naruto. A massive bolt of white energy hurtled again towards Naruto, this time accompanied by multiple jutsus of all the elements. The air was so bright with the techniques being unleashed that it was impossible to even see the Iwa army. The Konoha shinobi gasped in terror as the torrent of jutsu descended upon Naruto. Kushina uttered a silent prayer for her son, and Mito smiled. Makoton Hijutsu, Jukai Ka Uten. Thousands of massive tree trunks exploded from the ground beyond Naruto, dispelling the torrent of jutsu like a predator dispels from its sight a herd of prey. The countless trees rushed towards the Iwa shinobi, their huge size and force of release crushing them, killing them. Their multiple earth walls were pierced through by the force of the wood release, their lava techniques too small and ineffective to stop the thousands of massive trees descending upon them. Simultaneously Arashi Uman rose to intercept Onoki's attack, exploding to take the impact. Naruto had stopped his technique and looked at the fleeing Iwa shinobi. They came here for a slaughter? Then he would give them it. Makotan, Makaryu no Jutsu. An absolutely huge dragon of wood about a third of Konoha's size blasted from the ground, its creator leaping upon its head. It then took flight and hovered over the fleeing Iwa shinobi. It then dove full force into the now fully retreating army, crushing them under its weight. Its swiping claws and flailing body destroyed entire battalions of the enemy, and none of their jutsu even left a scratch upon it. Naruto scoffed. His wood dragon could even take a Bajidama from Kurama and toss it back. Their weak jutsu would not work. The remaining 500 tried to scatter in all directions, but it was in vain. 5 more wood dragons were born out of the earth, encircling the invaders and hemming them up in a circle of huge radius. The Konoha shinobi watched with reverence and downright worship as Naruto wielded their most sacred bloodline to rain destruction on the enemies of the village. Kushina and Jiraiya watched with amazement as they saw the full power of the Makotan being wielded for the first time in nearly a century. "Is this the power of the Makotan?" Kushina asked faintly. Kakashi was watching as if he did not want to miss even a single instant of the spectacle. "Not really. Hashirama can go far beyond this," said Mito proudly. "He was called God of Shinobi for a reason." Kushina dumbly looked back towards the now-ending battle. Onoki was fleeing rapidly from her enraged son, taking who she assumed was his family with him. The Iwa invaders were all but destroyed. "Makotan, Kakajikaran!" Naruto yelled, and a dense forest sprouted within the encirclement of his dragons, startling the clamoring 500 shinobi imprisoned within. Hundreds upon hundreds of huge flowers grew, spitting their pollen into the air. The trapped shinobi inhaled the lethal pollen, dying instantly in the hundreds. The circling wood dragons along with his own pounced upon the 100 survivors of the massacre. These men stood no chance. They were simply torn apart by the 6 dragons. Naruto looked around at the huge forest he had created and at the slaughtered bodies of the invaders in their hundreds with an impassive face. It was over so fast. They had to be destroyed, but he still grieved for it, his anger forgotten. War's wastefulness was beyond compare. He really hoped that Iwa's defeat would preserve the peace of Konoha. But the 1,000 he had slaughtered were loyal shinobi who had died for their village. They had to be returned to the earth. Doton, Yashano me Izo. Kushina watched as the dead everywhere in the plateau were swallowed up by the earth, their traces wiped clean. Her son had just killed hundreds of enemies and buried them. Minato did not even compare to this kind of strength. "You are indeed a god among shinobi, Hashirama-sama," thought Jiraiya, watching Naruto walk back with an immensely sad expression. The gatekeepers Izumo and Katetsu opened the gates with a deep bow. Naruto just entered wearily, and appeared in front of Kushina and Mito. Mito just ran up to him and hugged him hard, kissing him. "You fought like a god, my husband," she said proudly, looking at his face. It seemed that most of the Konoha shinobi had not recognized the young Mito in all the turmoil. They all bowed deeply to Naruto, Kakashi and Jiraiya leading them, with nothing but awe and reverence on their faces. Naruto bowed back deeply as well, leading to resounding cheers through Konoha. "Let's go home, Mito-chan, Kasan. I trust you can handle the rest, Orosanin." Jiraiya nodded. "Go home and rest for now, Gaki. You will doubtless be summoned later." Naruto nodded and disappeared with his wife and mother. He had a student and Hokage to mourn. Stories spread through Konoha like wildfire of the defeat of Iwa by a new god of shinobi wielding Makotan again, reigniting the will of fire in its shinobi. They all stared together from the battlements at the huge forest that had been birthed during the battle and named it the Forest of.
Hey guys, what's going on? Thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you guys want to watch more like it, please subscribe to my channel and become part of the video game fanfiction plot. And please leave a comment down below and hit that like button. If you guys have any suggestions on any stories you guys want me to read, don't hesitate. They're always welcome here in the video game fanfic plot. That also goes for video games. Until next time, goodbye!